ております。私はそこで仲介、なしたいと思います。Okay, so Joe, could you please start your presentation?
Sure. First of all, I'm glad to participate. I would say good morning. It's good morning for me, but I know it's good evening for you, so good evening. I wish I could give the presentation in Japanese, but unfortunately, I would only be able to say maybe 10 words, so I'll have to do it in English. But definitely glad to participate, and I appreciated what little I saw from Nagata-san. It looked like a very interesting seminar. I wish I could be there in person. I definitely miss being there. I hope everybody's being safe and healthy with everything going on. So I'm going to talk about being agile, about quality, a little bit about some of our QA patterns, but not a lot. And I know that already Professor Washizaki has already presented a lot of details about this. But I'll give kind of an overview of some stuff, and I'll mention a few other items too related to Agile and quality and Agile architecture with that. And so just to start off with, in general, there's many Agile or lean type practices. You hear people talk about these different Agile processes, even before the Agile Manifesto, you had things like Scrum or extreme programming, and out of extreme programming came TDD. We have things like BDD, Kanban, Kaizen, Lean, mob programming, and a lot of good principles came out of that. But mostly it was focused on, let's, rather than do this very long thing, let's continuously watch what's going on and go through these sprints. And one thing that Agile was really good, even in the early days, is Agile teams did a pretty good job of, let's keep our eye on the functional requirements. And so by functional requirements, it's good to focus on does the system work as advertised? We validate user stories from the perspective, maybe working with the product owner, getting that. Validate boundary conditions, if I'm going to bill somebody for so many minutes on a cell phone, am I billing the proper amount? Are excess charges computed correctly? Things like that. But something that's also very important, but a lot of times if you look at, when you look at the backlog and other things for a lot of Agile teams, they don't focus on system qualities a lot. And quality is definitely an important part of Agile development. Agile was supposed to be around, we want to do a better job, build quality software, and it's important to address important system qualities. And these qualities are sometimes called the non-functional requirements. And a lot of times, at least in English, you hear people call them illities, because a lot of them ended with illity, like availability, reliability, or scalability. And there's things like performance and security, the obvious ones. But there's some qualities that affect how well teams move. And so these qualities are also just important, such as maintainability, evolvability, testability, and deployability. These affect, are we able to sustain our development? And actually, indirectly, these qualities can even affect these qualities, because if the system is not very maintainable, or you have problems with testable or how you can evolve or add new features, all of a sudden you have to add a new feature, but it's very difficult. That might affect security or performance, because you may have a lot of cross-cutting concerns. So dealing with these quality attributes and it's very important as for any software system to be successful. So therefore, it's important for Agile to deal with these as well. Now, there's blindly following Agile doesn't give everything you want. There's a lot of Agile myths. So it's like, okay, we're doing sprints, we're getting continuous feedback, trying to inspect and adapt, making sure we're staying focused and moving the right direction. But for example, you hear a lot of time, oh, keep it simple is KISS, the keep it simple stupid principle. It's always best to keep it simple. And sometimes this is true, but at other times, simple solutions aren't the best. Some of our problems are so hard that there's more complicated things to do that. And another thing you hear a lot is you can always go fast when you're doing Agile. Yeah, we'll just always be able to continuously, if we're doing Agile or Lean, we can move very quickly. And then also, if we're following some process, some Agile process, Scrum, TDD, Agile, or whatever, will ensure good design and architecture. And in fact, architecture will just magically emerge. Good architecture and good qualities if we just do good Agile practices. And this is sometimes when people just early on are learning Agile and they've got their Agile, maybe Scrum, they learn Scrum by the book and they got their blinders on, and you're just staying focused on, okay, we're on 2-week sprints. We have these user stories. These user stories are around the functional requirements. We just keep moving forward, writing a lot of tests as we go, keeping things clean. The architecture will emerge. Well, an architecture will emerge, but it may not be what you want, and it may cause a lot of problems if you have not committed to good principles. So something I always like to say, and this ties into a lot of the story I'm going to present here during this seminar, values drive practices. So what I value will drive what I practice. And a repeated practice is a pattern. And so, for example, this is a picture of me with Mary Lynn Manns, one of the authors of Fearless Change, dancing at one of the big technical conferences in San Diego quite a few years ago. It's at one of the Splash conferences. And so if I value dancing, I will practice. People that value music, they practice a lot. This is Richard Gabriel from our Patterns community. He plays guitar. He's also a poet, and he writes a poem a day. And so he practices, and some of his poems, he'll even tell you and share, may not be that good, but by doing a lot of that, that's where he gets good at experimenting, trying new things. I have a friend that's a master chef, and I even think of like sous chefs or whatever, they'll always try and be practicing different things. And so when you look at what makes a practice a pattern, it's repeatable, it solves problems, but it's also got positive and negative consequences. But if it's something I value, I'll do it. If I don't value, I'll do it. But if I value and I do it and I start doing it regularly, it's repetition. And so patterns can be thought of good practices, proven solutions to repeating problems. They embody quality attributes. Patterns, like if I'm talking about security patterns, they talk about for different quality attributes for security. If I'm looking at design patterns, from the Gang of Four, for building object-oriented reusable systems, they've got quality attributes for building these reusable object-oriented systems. If I have user interface patterns, they're about building quality user interfaces. And so patterns really have embodied proven techniques for certain qualities when you have some of the proven practices. You can also say for repeating situations, being an engineer, we always like to talk about solving problems, but sometimes if you're designing something new, maybe a new cool web app or something for your business, it may not be that you're solving a problem, you're just creating something new, but you have proven solutions to these repeating problems. So we wrote, and I was involved with a few different people, including Professor Washizaki, and he's already presented some of this material. But since we're talking about patterns, I'll repeat a little bit of it, just because that good repetition, it kind of drills it in. And so becoming agile at quality was something more than 10 years ago. In fact, some of my early interactions with Professor Washizaki was on qualities and patterns. One of my first times in Japan back in 2007, we were looking at patterns and quality at that point. And then about 10 years ago, I started collaborating with a good colleague of mine, Adamar Aguilar, and I started brainstorming some of these. And then that collaboration grew to Rebecca Wurzbrock and Professor Washizaki on doing this, and we wrote some of these patterns. But if you're gonna Agile and quality should fit well together, and if you're gonna do that, you know, what are some good ways of doing that? And so we ended up writing a bunch of different patterns and even evolving them some. Lately, I've been even collaborating, beginning some collaboration over the last few years with Nagata-san, who just presented. And so to me, one of the first earliest things that you need to think about, and by the way, the little bit of Japanese that's in here was thanks to Professor Washizaki, and previously has helped me translate a little bit of this in Japanese. Very little is in Japanese, but I put some, hopefully it helps. But you have to think about tearing down the walls. And we have to kind of change our organization from the old way we were doing things. Here's an example of the Berlin Wall finally being torn down, and how finally, you know, we get rid of this, these different walls. And you can think of walls, obviously, sometimes countries have barriers, and in cultural barriers. The way things and the way that you do things in Japan are quite different than what you do in Brazil when I'm in Brazil. And so addressing these types of barriers are important. And sometimes our barriers might be language, but other times it could be barriers from our different experiences. Am I a manager, or am I a customer? Am I in QA focused on testing? Am I in a developer? And so we need to kind of break down these barriers, and it's tragic sometimes in some organizations, not all, that QA, quality assurance, is often seen more like quality control, more like the gatekeepers more towards the end. And so with Agile teams were always focused on, let's get people working together and make things visible. They should be cross-functional, good communication, and it should be focused on the stakeholders' needs, and incrementally delivering working software and adapt to change as needed. It's very collaborative and self-organizing, and it's a whole team working together. Now, QA teams, they understand how we need to specify and validate system quality. They usually understand testing well. They certify the functionality of the application based upon the contract and the requirements. Tragically, many QA groups work independently from the software team. And unfortunately, some organizations, they're involved late in the process. And there's not a lot of communication. They're usually not part of the Agile team. And partly is you're usually underfunded, not enough staff, and they're always just in time, but sometimes late because they don't have enough time and enough resources to really commit. So they're just doing last-minute checking of the system and not part of the whole process. Whereas with Agile quality, it's more like the whole team approach. QA and architect roles will shift, bringing their expertise. So QA will focus on delivering system qualities. They're integrated with day-to-day development. They're more proactive. They're engaged in QA activities much earlier. They work much closely with the business product owner, architects, and developers to understand, define, and validate quality all through the process. And the architects, they're more stewards for the ongoing sustainable development. They help mitigate architecture risk. They'll work with the business product owner, QA, and devs to define and improve the architecture and establish good practices, paying attention to details. And so this is trying to get in that mindset that, we're all on the same team together. We should build quality in from the start. Just like when you think of Toyota with TPS, very similar. Quality is built in throughout, and everybody is responsible for quality. This is going on here too, and so we're integrating this whole thing in. I know one organization, and I have a paper later that I'll reference and give you access to, where they embedded QA to the whole teams, and it was amazing how much waste was going on between the development team and QA writing the same types of tests. And now QA can focus on the tests that developers were writing were better. And then the QA could take and focus on the other types of tests that needed to be done, higher quality, and not have that duplication of effort. So as we're moving along, one of our patterns that we like to focus on is what we call is the most responsible moments. In Agile, you always hear people talk about put things off until the last responsible moment. But some decisions or actions are too important to leave until the last possible moment. Unfortunately, the last responsible moment sometimes gets misunderstood to the last possible moment. And even though we could address certain qualities, security or whatever, way late in the game, we might hastily have to do things because we put them off until a dangerous moment where we're in a reactionary mode to succeed. And you might get it out, but it can really affect quality and goes down. So it's important to address these and plan for these. There might be a better, even though we could do the security maybe later on, maybe there's a more responsible moment to address it. So it's important to plan for responsible moments and put these on your roadmap. Think, where should we address performance? Or where should we address security? And it's you're not over planning, but you can plan, and this is being Agile, this is a rough adaptive plan. So on our roadmap, we can adapt and change this. And so it's important to qualify the roadmap with these qualities and architectural decisions and think about where they go. So for example, this is a roadmap. It's a made up roadmap because for most of my clients that I have NDA signed with, I can't actually share a real roadmap, but you can think of, so I kind of made this up an example, but you can think of if you're going on, there might be different risks or different architectural things where we're looking at mobile web, maybe where do we need to start looking at addressing mobile security, and maybe we need to do some spike solutions to figure out what's going on. And so this is something that can help as we're moving forward with this. Now, another key principle to some of our Agile quality patterns that we worked on is you cannot fix what you cannot see. You know, visibility is key. And so one of my new quotes I've been going with is, for example, Hero has not seen me in person for quite some time, since last year. I was hoping to come there for Asian Plop earlier this year, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I was not able to travel. But if Hero would see me, and maybe he can see me on camera now, I am more than 15 to 20 kilos lighter than I was then because I changed my diet. But I had to monitor and watch what's going on. So if I don't watch, and so I decided to go on a lower carb diet and experiment with and see what worked, some exercise, watch some of my steps I'm doing and things like that. But if I don't monitor it, I don't know what's working well. Same way with qualities. It's important to have these radiators. Alistair Koberg talks about having these different types of radiators, but usually it's radiators not always addressing qualities. So we talk about having quality different types of radiators. Monitor these qualities and make them visible. I know when I went to Spotify about 8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, one thing I was impressed with Spotify as I was moving around, and a very agile organization, very open and transparent, they had visible, wherever you go, all kinds of qualities and things going on with the system. They would even have people where they were getting instant feedback from problems with the system, which would affect developers could even then think about, wow, I'm working on that part of that system right now. So having different types of dashboards or different things showing technical debt, or is security starting to become an issue? So, it's good to qualify the backlog, put these on, work items. We have quality scenarios or stories. Maybe you have fold out qualities. And sometimes you may even have a whole quality focused sprint. But a lot of times on the backlog, you might either associate a quality story, or you'll associate with a normal user story what we call fold out qualities. So you can add backlog items for these. Yes, we can, and that's important. And in fact, we can even make architectural work and different qualities visible. And this is something that Philip Crutchen, and there's a reference for it. We can colorize our backlog. So maybe like a visible feature we put here, and maybe we use the green kind of card on the backlog. But if it's an invisible architecture feature, maybe we put it as yellow. If it's a visible defect, we'll make red. It's a problem. It's a bug that we have going on. So you can make these types of quality visible, and then you may have things like technical debt as well. You're looking at things along this as well. You can maybe use these. You don't have to necessarily use these colors, but you can use colors to help the team know what's going on. Another way to make things visible, and these are a bunch of patterns that I wrote with Paulo Merson, Eduardo Guerra, and Ademar Aguirre, called Continuous Inspection. This was an Asian plot paper about 6 years ago, and it was really, you can have certain quality attributes, not only code smells, but other metrics, test coverage, but additionally you can have application security checks, architectural conformance, and you automate these to the best of your ability. And as developers are going through and releasing, and we're running a lot of analysis, we can get that report very quickly on what's going on. And so we're either looking at running software that we're building as we're releasing, or the source code, and we're giving feedback not only to the developers, but to architects, QA, and possible business people. And so we can continue this on. So I'm going to go through this quick. I know that Hiro already presented some of this, but how does it fit into it? You can think of some typical Agile process. Here's something that maybe you recognize. It's, maybe it's a variation of Scrum, maybe not, but mainly we're going through different sprints, and during product and envisioning, we're still identifying architectural risk, key quality scenarios, and fold out qualities, and they're included in our backlog during a sprint. And so as we're planning a sprint, we might have different quality tasks. Sometimes the whole sprint might be focused on quality, but sometimes it might be certain qualities are part of that sprint. And you're running it, and there needs to be, during the sprint, there's a lot of quality testing as part of this, included with this, and we continue on with this. And so we have 5 essential qualities, Agile quality scenarios with your fold-out qualities. Here's a version of that in Japanese. Additionally, automation is key, and I love this quote, so I had to put it on here. And this is a quote by Bill Gates. It's the first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. The second is that automation applied to an inefficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. So it's important to automate. Automation is key. Automate as soon as you can. Automate as you go, because it becomes difficult to add a lot of automated tests way late in the game, sometimes almost impossible. Therefore, create an environment and use tools to automate fundamental things that add value as soon as you can, as soon as they add values. Do not put off till the way late. And so provide this. And there's good things to automate, such as repetitive tasks, anything that involves waiting, error prone, different qualities, architectural conformance, things that are tedious. I mean, if you only do it once, it's not worth automating. But if not, it pays off big. Now, in 25 minutes or whatever, I don't have enough time to go through all of these patterns, but we have more than 23 patterns we've written. You can see the authors that we've been writing, but we've also been collaborating. We've had many workshops in Japan, in Europe, in South America, in the US. We've been working with people getting feedback on this. So these are based upon a lot of, even though we're the 4 authors, we've definitely held many workshops and collaborated with many people in industry and in different universities, looking at a lot of these qualities. And they're evolving. I'm working at writing some more with Hiro and Nagata-san. And So these are the 23, and fortunately, Hiro has been generous enough to be translating these to Japanese. So there's some of these are available in Japanese now, but definitely I'll give you the links to all the papers in English as part of this talk today. Make it freely available. Additionally, there's these patterns for evolving agile architecture. We wrote some of these. I wrote these with Rebecca Wurzbrock and Eduardo Guerra at Asian Plop. Find where it hurts, climbing, build on a reference architecture, build a test architecture. Sometimes you have to have tracer bullets and how to plan for responsible moments. Additionally, we wrote some at the US Plop, like how to do an architectural spike with an put architecture in your backlog, how to handle technical debt. It relates to our continuous inspection patterns. And so all of these papers, if you go to this web link here, all of these papers are available online. By the way, I shared the slides with Hiro. He's going to make the slides available to everybody. So we have all these papers here there available for everybody, including some worksheets for if you're doing Agile qualities, how to go and grab some of the lightweight methodology for grabbing some of the quality attributes that are including this. I also put some other papers on in there about embedding QA in Agile teams, a really good experience report from one of the Agile conferences. So definitely go check out all the links here for this. So to kind of finish this, I want to kind of put a call to action. So remember I said values drive practices. So what do you value? We need to think about that. Let's have the whole team. Let's focus on the roles and responsibilities and think what we value, not only as an organization, but what do I individually value? And remember, I can only fix what I can see. So making things visible is key if we're going to do this. And focus on this continuous improvement. Try little things, experiment. Focus on what add value, go in the low-hanging route. And get into some regular daily practices. Just like, based upon things I value, I wanted to lose some weight. So I started changing my diet, getting into some regular daily practices with what I do there. And then get into this incrementally dealing, and ultimately you can sustain development. So if we really want to be successful, pause points are key. We need some slack time, So slack time, if we're ever going to improve or build quality in, we cannot try to do too much. We need to make room for the quality. And also to be innovative and find a better way to do that. And so sometimes we find that there's wasteful things. The danger here is we find wasteful things and we reduce the waste. The problem happens if we just shift everything left and try to do more tasks. Yeah, we can do more tasks, but we might be creating more problems for ourselves. So if we have made some slack time and introduced time into the process, we can use this to ensure quality, plus we can find innovative ways to do the same things with less. And so it's important to try little experiments. By the way, it's not just me saying this. There's a lot of very famous people. Tom DeMarco talks about, slack, getting past burnout, busy work, and the myth of total efficiency. You should never be past 80% efficient. Because if you have a spring stretched out, that's why I like the picture of the spring. If it's stretched out all the way and something happens, it's going to break. But if you have a little bit of slack in that spring and say somebody gets sick or an issue comes up, you have some room to deal with it. So full is not the goal. The main thing in this book is getting past its innovation requires slack, fail and learn with confidence. Nothing over time is dangerous. And also Daniel Kahneman talks about this. And some of these books have been translated to Japanese as well, but thinking fast and slow. So just to put closure on this is you have to think about, sometimes people get stuck in the same process no matter what they're doing. Kent Beck has this thing he's been putting through his 3X model recently, And it's 3 X's. Explore is 1 X, expand is the other X, and extract. When we're experimenting with new ideas, you don't want heavyweight testing. In fact, technical debt it's not technical debt yet. You're experimenting. But if things take off and become part of your organization, even if it's a large organization, then you have to, you have to start dealing with technical debt and qualities. And here you have to be very careful. Something goes wrong, it can cost you many millions or billions of yen or dollars or whatever. So you need to change your practices. As you're moving here, you have to do that. Now, if you're up here and you want to experiment with a new idea, you don't want to use heavyweight process to experiment. So you need to kind of adapt. So what do you value? What are your values? What are your agile design values? Code quality, technical debt, deliberate practices, paying attention. So it's a journey. Values drive practice. Deal with technical debt. Focus on not only code quality, but architectural things and other things. Deliberate practice, paying attention, and allow some slack time to improve. So it's a journey. And so anyway, I would like to say arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much. It's always good to participate. And I'd like to thank definitely Professor Washizaki for inviting me to this. I will make sure to point out, this is a quote from the Big Ball of Mud paper, published more than 20 some years ago, but still relevant today, with talking about the problems of technical debt that me and Brian Foot. If you think good architecture is expensive, try bad architecture. So it's important to build quality in. And then my second quote, which I didn't put here, but I said multiple times, we can only fix what we can see. So thank you very much.
Joseph, thank you very much. That's a really, a great talk, and we truly appreciate for that. まず日本語でですね、まず、ジョーさんに今日ですね、本当に遅くに、というか早い時間、向こうでは早い時間にですね、講演いただきありがとうございました。で、時間はもう超過してるんですけど、せっかくいらしていただいているので、今日の皆さんの関心の一番高い質問と、それから、今回の QA と AQ の中でですね、彼の講演の中で関連する、そういう質問を2つですね、私の独断と偏見で選んでちょっと質問したいと思います。で、前者の方はですね、やはりせっかくですね、スライドの最上位にあるですね、テストの妥当性や網羅性っていうのを、どう、アジャイル開発で捉えていくのかということをですね。あともう一つは、クオリティテスティング、品質テストっていうものが、に関する質問が複数ありました。例えばスプリント内であったり、一方でその外での位置づけもあったりですとかね。そこを、どう捉えるのかということになります。で、前者に関しては、私自身は、実際ですね、例えば、やはりまずはその品質のシナリオであったり、それからストーリーに、織り込まれるですね、品質の基準というのはまず一つの、評価のもちろん基準になるわけですけれども、その上でですね、その完了といったところについてはですね、私自身の経験として、必ずしも、例えばバグ検出数などの昔からのですね、メトリックスが使えないっていうことではなくて、実際共同研究ですとか、今なお実際、今様々見てるんですけども、スプリントやですね、イテレーションというその小さいな単位の中でもですね、もちろん制限付きではありますけども、実際にそのバグ検出がですね、収束している。従ってですね、大体のその、完了の状況というものがですね、そういうメトリックスの観点からもですね、見て取れると。ただし、それは例えばチームを超えた比較がなかなか難しいですとか、そういった制限はあるわけですけども、そういうイテレーションやスプリントの中で見るっていうことも、チームによってはですね、機能するってことは、実際私自身は確認はしてですね、モニタリングの、一つとして使えるっていうのは経験としてあります。っていう、ここは私からの、反応ということなんですけども、それも含めて、ジョーにちょっと聞いてみたいと思います。Okay, so Joe, well, again, thank you very much for your, great talk. And can we ask 2 questions?
Sure.
Yeah, and so one question is about many Japanese participants are quite interested about testing adequacy, or in other words, how much test cases should we prepare in traditional software development? Often some say software reliability growth model, or number of bugs or number of defects detected, and often quality assurance members try to measure and count those numbers and metrics, and also coverage as well, testing coverage, and but in agile development, many Japanese participants are thinking that those metrics might be not so useful. So if you have some comment, then yeah, please let us know. And another question is more related to your talk. That is how we locate quality testing. Perhaps in your talk you mentioned that quality testing can be included in the sprint, but at the same time, maybe sometimes outside the sprint.
Yes.
So okay, so yeah, so these two questions, or maybe comments. Do you have some comment or?
Sure, and thank you for that. And by the way, let me remind people too, is anybody that wants to contact me even outside of this at any time, you can feel free to email me or contact me through any way that you can. And then Hiro, of course, knows how to get a hold of me as well.
Yes.
So
yeah, I can
at any time. I hope to be in Japan next year if we're lucky. So I hope to come back at some time too.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe Sakura time.
Yeah. So sometimes metrics metrics are not good or bad. In fact, I have an interesting talk sometime if you're interested. Fantastic metrics and where to find them. And we were playing off the Harry Potter theme of fantastic beasts and where to find them. But metrics are not good or bad, but metrics are not like some magic number. And so just to give you an example of that is, I was working for one organization doing healthcare type systems, very large, one of the largest in the world. We had 6 Agile teams. 4 teams were in the US and Wisconsin, 1 was in India, 1 was in China. And we were in 2-week sprints and things like that. And one of the metrics was we were doing TDD, pair programming, lots of tests, and you had to have 80% coverage in order to integrate in. And every 2-week sprints, we had to come in, and we had a scrum of scrums, and all the teams had to integrate. But you could not check your code in unless you had 80% coverage. Well, if you might ask, well, isn't that a good idea? Well, when you started looking at some of the tests written, some of the tests were coverage tests. And so they weren't, sometimes they didn't even have assertions in them. So that did not guarantee good quality of test. And so testing is really focused around giving confidence. You want to validate what parts of the system is doing what you expect. And so metrics are, I'm not against coverage, but the number one thing is, do I have good tests that give me confidence? And am I addressing my quality concerns? So it's important to know what phase I am in. Quality concerns evolve depending on where you are. Being agile means adapting and doing what's best at the time, continuously learning. Continuous delivery helps give me some confidence because I'm getting some feedback on what's going, and I'm getting little incremental feedback, but testing can give a lot of confidence too. But I need to validate the tests. Are the tests really making me feel comfortable that the system's doing what it's supposed to? And if there's important qualities like security, performance, reliability, do I have good tests for that? And so having some slack time can give some confidence and breathing room for focusing on those types of things. And so that was it for the first question. And then
okay, so may I translate it in Japanese at this moment?
Absolutely.
はい。今、まず一つ目の質問に関してですね、ちょっと必ずしもきちんと全部日本語にお伝えできるとも限らないんですが、一応トライしますと、例えば彼自身のですね、様々なアジャイルな開発の経験として、例えば、 80%テストカバレッジっていうふうに定めてるんですとかね。そういったところっていうのはあったりしましたと。で、それで、メトリックスを別に否定するものではなくて、もちろんそれも役立てていけばいいのだけれども、しかし必ずしもじゃあ、例えばテストカバレッジがその 80% 以上あるからといって、それで品質が当然保証されるということでもない。だからやっぱり大事なことは、やはりコンフィデンスであると。それは例えば確信であったり、きちんと自信を持てるということですね。それは例えばテストの内容、テストの良さということもそうですし、それからきちんとそういうコンフィデンス、その品質に対してもですね、その確信、自信を持っていけるということについて、きちんとやはり継続的に品質をプロセスの中でですね、組み入れていき、またその絶えず継続的に検証して、フィードバックをすると。そういったことを通じて、やっぱりそのコンフィデンスっていうものをもう持ち、またそれを組み入れていくということが大事だと。そんなような、若干ニュアンスが違ってたらすいません。一旦私からの、ちょっと伝わらなくて恐縮ですが、日本語とさせていただきます。Okay, so Joe, thank you very much. And then can you give us an answer
Yes,
for
remind
second
me the
question?
second question again. Sorry,
Yes. Second,
I'm still
yes.
waking up. So.
I know. Second question was about quality testing, right? Okay, so you
yes,
mentioned that sometimes quality testing can be
yes,
included, of course, into some specific sprints or
yes,
iterations. But
right,
sometimes quality testing can be outside, and so
yes,
do you have any comments or?
yes, yeah. My experience and from what I've seen as far as good practices is you want to do both. So definitely you want to include it as part of the sprint and embed it. And in fact, the team is responsible for certain quality, but that's not a replacement for still the outside testing. So you still need that outside testing as well. So the main thing is focusing on the different types of testing to add value. So yes, trying to do both is important and definitely adds value. But unfortunately, a lot of organizations don't do the inside testing. So that's why our QA patterns, our agile quality patterns, QA to AQ, focused a lot on including it as part of the sprint. And even as the sprint's going on, you may have some outside things that's going on outside the system doing that independently. But it should be a feedback loop, and this should be transparent. That type of testing should be transparent to the teams, so the teams can see issues that are coming up or if there's certain qualities. So you may have an architectural trigger. So this quality is still good, but it's going the wrong direction. Performance is still within the boundary, but we're seeing that performance used to be really good, but now it's not so good. So then the team can see that even though we're still meeting the requirement for performance, there's issues coming up. So that way they know ahead of time that we might need to start including in our sprints something about performance before it gets too bad that we're frantically out there doing things. So having these outside things as well as the inside things, I think are both really good things. Thank you.
That's a really great answer. Thank you very much. 今の回答も拙なくて恐縮ですから、ちょっと要点をまとめようとしますと、そうか、今日小林さんがいらっしゃるから、むしろ私よりも、なんか、間違いですとか補足あれば、ちょっと他の方もご指摘ください。結論から言うと、やっぱり両方だと。つまり、そういうスプリントやそのイテレーションの中で組み入れた品質のテストっていうのを、例えばパフォーマンスのテストですとかね、重要であると。一方で、そのスプリントやイテレーションの外でのテスト、品質テストとクオリティも重要であるという、ご指摘です。それで少し、例えば、観点も違っていたりするわけですけども、ただ、大事なことはやっぱり、特にちゃんときちんとスプリント内でのですね、テストっていうのは非常に重要である。品質のテストですね。重要であると。で、ここはしばしば組織や会社においてですね、見落としがちであってですね、つまり、なんか一通りですね、機能の実装等々を終えてからですね、品質のテストをするっていうのは、それは比較的従来のやり方だって、そうではなくて大事なことはそういうスプリントの中でですね、重要な品質特性、例えばパフォーマンスなどについてですね、明らかに、全く パフォーマンスが出なくなってしまうといったことのないようにですね、あらかじめ例えばスプリント内の中でもですね、きちんと行っておくべきだと。それから、スプリントの外での品質テストにつきましてもですね、開発チームと独立しているということでは、その結果をですね、きちんと、またその開発チームの方にですね、フィードバックするといったことが、重要であると。そういったようなご指摘でありました。何か今の私の回答でもし補足などあれば他の方からお願いします。
小林ですけど、よろしいかと思います。必須パターンの中に、チームの中でのパターンがすごく多いのは、逆にそういうところが見過ごされてたからだなっていうのがですね、改めて、私も理解したところです。
はい、ありがとうございます。逆にだからアジャイル品質プロセスの絵ですと、なんかクオリティテスティングが外でしかやってないように見えてしまうんで、逆にちょっと絵の出し方をちょっと今後考えた方がいいのかもしれませんね。Okay, so Joe, I hope I successfully translated your answer into Japanese, and
I'm sure it was good. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so actually, it's almost it's time to end this seminar. So perhaps Joe, you might some last message or something to Japanese. Especially today, many practitioners are, willing to know, how we do better, software development and software engineering in agile way. So do you have some, final message or something or?
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, thank you for organizing this seminar, this Agile Quality Seminar, and these very important topics. And I'm always happy to participate and hope everybody's doing well. And something that I Agile was always about building quality software and addressing quality concerns. Sometimes it seems to people miss that. So it's important, Agile is about transparency and doing the right things and focusing on the most important things that add values. And quality is an important part of that. And so integrating quality into all of this is definitely key to successful. So anyway, it's very good to be here, to be virtually online and participate with this. And I hope good success for everybody. And I hope I can see people in person at some time again, maybe next year, once we get on the other side of this pandemic. So, arigato gozaimasu, have a good day, and thank you very much for allowing me to participate.
Joe-san, ありがとうございます。And thank you for your very, strong and valuable message to Japanese participants. And of course, we believe that soon we can meet together and, virtually as well as, physically. And also we are very happy to work, we are happy to continue to work together and to enhance, agile quality patterns and some other related things. So,
yeah.
So
I have some ideas with you and Nagata-san to write a few more patterns. So I hope we do so soon.
Yeah, that's great. So let's have some session to.
Okay.
Yeah, and also do practice as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, Joe-san, you also, I want to let you know that today we have many case studies of agile quality patterns.
Awesome.
Yeah. So maybe after this seminar, I can introduce you, some cases by Nagata-san, also Kobayashi-san, and Osada-san in various companies. Yeah.
Oh, that would be great. I would very much like to hear that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So, so once again, Joe-san, 他の講演者の皆様から何かもしジョーにコメントなどありましたら最後、いかがですかね。一旦それで締めようと思いますが。
Just thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And also Nagata-san?
Yes. Thank you very much, Joe. And I will keep the learning and learning of the study group of the QA2 pattern. So we'll have many questions, and I'd like to discuss with that. Okay. But anyway, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for all the work you've done in the study group. I appreciated the dialogue of the past few weeks with you on it.
Yeah.
あと、なんか、長田さんからもし何か最後にありましたら、よろしいですかね。
Thank you, Joe. It was a good opportunity for your presentation. I will do some action from tomorrow for more good agile process. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Wow, from tomorrow, that's a really action of it.
Call to action.
Yes. Okay, so, ではですね、最後にセミナーにですね、今日わざわざアメリカから来ていただいたジョー、それから今日講演者の皆様、そして大勢のですね、この時間になりまして残っていただいた参加者の皆様、全員ですね、拍手を持って終わりまして、その後、残られる方はもうちょっとだけ、ちょっと放課後という時間を設けようと思いますが、セミナーとしては一旦以上で終了とさせていただきます。アンケートの方ですね、ありますので、ぜひ、コンパスの方からですね、アンケートの方に、ご回答いただければと思います。Okay, so Joe, now we are closing this seminar. So once again, thank you very much for coming and giving us a really nice talks. And so also, to all participants, thank you for coming. And we had a really good time. And we believe that this is a very good opportunity to enhance more being agile at quality and so on. Okay, so once again, thank you very much. ありがとうございました。
Arigato gozaimasu. Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you.